Hey everybody, welcome to Myopia Movies. This week we are talking the 1995 classic Mortal Kombat. Now, for those of you who've been around long enough, you know that we've already done this episode. That's fine. We are doing a revisited month, and this is one that we haven't thought about in almost 9 years, and so we thought it'd be fun to visit again, especially since Mortal Kombat 1, the video game, is about to be released. So, twice as graphic as before, I guess. So thanks for doing all you do to keep us on the charts. Thanks for listening, thanks for sharing, and thanks for being you. We hope you enjoy Mortal Kombat. We did.
Mortal Kombat!
Oh. It's worse every time. Welcome to Myopia Movies. This week we talked about 1995's Mortal Kombat in honor of nothing. We just decided to redo this movie. It was one of our earliest ones. And the new movie that came out 2 years ago was terrible, and they've announced a new video game. So we're doing it in honor of the Mortal Kombat 1 video game that's coming out this fall. Don't watch the trailer. It's something. I'm your host, Nick Hoffman, Riffer on Cineprov, and on panel we have...
Keiko.
And?
Atlanta author Matthew W. Quinn. Check out my Substack, because I'm probably going to quit Twitter.
Great. I'm on Threads.
Threads.
Ooh. It's a new social
I know
media.
Yeah.
The first time I heard about Threads is that horrible British movie, not this.
What are you talking about?
The one, the nuclear war movie from the 80s.
Okay, so Threads is a Facebook knockoff of Twitter that came out last week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm too old for that.
I know that, so I got kind of cross-wired in my brain.
I'm glad you did. So we're talking about 95's Mortal Kombat, probably a movie I watch once a year. It's incredible, and it's incredibly stupid. Keiko, is this the first time you've seen it?
As I recall, yes. So either I blocked it out, or this really was the first time.
You judge.
You want to do the plot synopsis?
Maybe. Okay. So I might have a little trouble with this. It seems that there are fighters around the world who are being gathered to fight in this contest, like a fight contest.
Indeed.
Mortal Kombat. And they kind of go to this place on a ship, and this old man Radon, who really needs a lozenge, he explains to them that they're going to save the world by defeating the bad guys. So then they go to the place to do the Mortal Kombat, and then we just kind of meet, all the fighter people, and there's a lot of fighting. And then
we win.
That's pretty much it. Yeah. The good guys win.
You know what? That nails it.
The old man with a lozenge, that's Christopher Lambert playing Lord Raiden.
Lord Raiden.
The world's whitest Asian thunder god.
Wow. That was good. No, that was good. He's played by James Remar in the sequel.
Who's also white too, but not as cool as me.
He was really cool.
Yeah, and if you don't know Christopher Lambert, we've covered him in Highlander. He was in all three of those.
Where I sound like this, even though this time I'm supposed to be Scottish.
Because he's French. And in fact, when they got him for Highlander, he couldn't speak English. So he said everything phonetically. And in this, he can now, in fact, speak English. But it's still pretty bad. He sounds like Peter Sellers or something. He's down here.
It was really strange.
If someone could make a choice, they chose to make the strange choice.
Well, it kind of worked out. I like Lord Raiden, even if he looks so strange.
Also, at the end of the movie, he got like a weird northern accent when he was talking.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. It was. I was just like, oh, he sounds like a Yankee. And then
in between reshoots, I took another movie.
He got some tips.
I had to be from Boston.
We can do the whole podcast in this voice.
I'm just hearing Steve Buscemi.
It's getting worse.
How do you do, fellow kids?
Well, Buscemi's got more of a Brooklyn to him, so he's up here. Anyway, so Christopher Lambert, we talked about. We can talk about some of these other guys who aren't very good. Either you've got Linden Ashby, who plays Johnny Cage, who Hollywood forgotten.
Fake Johnny. I really like in the beginning where the guy is holding a newspaper that says Johnny's fake, and then he like slams the newspaper down. And he's like, "Oh, hey Johnny, how you doing?" And Johnny's like, "It's cool, but everybody thinks I'm fake."
I want to know in what world any of this could happen, right? Like, I mean, you know what?
Is there like a? Do they ever establish? Is this like 1995 in the real world?
I think it's supposed to be 1995 in the real world.
Okay.
This is what happened. So Tom Cruise went to see this opening night, and he's like, "Well, if I don't do all my own stunts, they're going to think I'm fake too." And that explains more of, like the Mission Impossible movies for the last 25 years.
Oh, I thought you were about to say he believed it was real. And that's why he's a Scientologist.
Was he a Scientologist yet?
I think so.
He must have been,
Shang Tsung is collecting all the thetans
There you go.
to give himself like magic powers.
That's good.
Your
Tracks.
thetan is mine.
Tracks.
So the trivia here, by the way, if you didn't know,
Please tell me the Mortal Kombat trivia.
Well, first of all, it's crazy, but we'll get there. The director, who looked like Steven Spielberg, was supposed to be Steven Spielberg, who loved the game Mortal Kombat, but he was filming something, so he couldn't make it work. Couldn't make it work. That's a big old quote, but that's why he looks like Spielberg. He has the hat, the sunglasses, the beard, and he's begging Linden Ashby to come back to set. But yeah, so it was actually supposed to be Spielberg.
Oh.
So, just to explain the crazy thing about this movie in general, there's an incredible movie, which is a previous episode called Bloodsport, which is about a tournament where people fight to the death.
Kumite, kumite, kumite.
This movie may be the movie that I was thinking of. Does the guy get like trained? Does he go through like the serious training?
Kind of, sort of. Because he shows up at the tournament, he gets his butt kicked, and then he has to go through a training regiment to become yeah.
I think this is the movie because I was like watching it. I was like, you know what? I don't think I watched this as a kid, but I remember watching some other movie that was like a fighting theme no, it wasn't that.
Yeah.
I think it may be this Bloodsport.
Yeah,
Okay.
Bloodsport is Jean-Claude Van Damme, and Johnny Cage is supposed to be Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Well, let me go a step further. This was pitched as a Bloodsport video game. The Mortal Kombat video game was supposed to be a Bloodsport video game. And they said absolutely not. And so that's when they made up all that Outworld stuff and that mythology to do it. And then they approached Jean-Claude Van Damme and said, "Hey, this was already supposed to be you. Do you want to be the star of this movie? Do you want to be Johnny Cage?" And he goes, "No, there's enough French people in it already." And so he turns it down, and this movie becomes a cult classic. They made it for like $25 million. It made almost $100 million. And so he goes, "I screwed up once, so I'm going to play an American in Street Fighter." So he's in Street Fighter as Ken, doing like, "I am an American, and I am going to fight you." and that movie was a huge bomb. So
Because for me it was Tuesday.
Great line, Raul Julia. But so he screwed it up twice. And this is also after he left the Predator movie, because he was the Predator originally.
Oh.
Yeah, and you can actually find pictures of him in the costume looking very confused. A lot more splits in that movie.
I am an alien from France, but not a conehead?
That's right. A Belgian kickboxing alien.
Is Tommy Wiseau French? Because you guys are sounding like Tommy Wiseau.
It's getting worse, too.
I don't know.
And it's funny because I'll do the accent, Matt does it back to me, and then I do his accent back to him.
Yeah.
And it's like stumbling down the stairs. It's really something. Oh, Johnny Cage.
Oh, hi, Johnny.
Oh, hi, Johnny.
Wait till we get to Kano.
I am for Mortal Kombat. I'm here to fight in Mortal Kombat.
Tear him apart!
Speaking of, we should mention the cold open, which is Liu Kang's dream, where Shang Tsung is just beating the crap out of this child.
Well, so what I noticed about the beginning, so I noticed like video game music came on really strong. Just like the movie, it doesn't like ease you in. It's like do like Mortal Kombat music, and then there's like fighting crunching sounds.
All right. Before we get the New Line logo, the movie shouts its title at us, which is incredible.
The sound,
Muppets Take Manhattan! Like,
the soundtrack of my childhood karate dojo, they played the Mortal Kombat album.
that is so... that is amazing and cheap at the same time. I love that.
Mortal Kombat.
There is no Street Fighter in this dojo.
So, this movie...
Oppenheimer! Dun, 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 dun.
Is it for 13-year-old boys?
Yes,
I was
it's
10.
100%.
I was 10. I was close enough.
I mean, that's what I feel, because I was like, would I show this to my kids? I don't think so. I think that it's a little bit too scary, a little bit too, like, there's not like super
and a little
gore.
too pervy when Shang Tsung and Sonya are in the same scene.
Oh, I didn't get
I didn't
that
get
too
the
much.
Pervy. Like, the pervy didn't bother.
But it was a little just spooky, like the scariness, like dark, and
This is a middle school guy sleepover movie.
But it's just, like, silly enough where it's not an adult movie. Like they didn't go like they were like right in the middle.
You should not have watched this. This is not for you.
Oh.
A woman in her 30s. No. You need to be on Surge.
Oh,
like,
okay.
You need to have nothing but Surge for the previous 6 hours, and then been playing the game, and then been like, we should now watch the game.
Yeah.
Because after paralyzing this child, because Shang Tsung is just like crushing this, like stomping on this kid's back for about 10 minutes.
Yeah.
It's really quite something. We wake up in the Matrix. And Liu Kang is in this green room.
And he gets a Western Union thingy. He's like,
Come quick.
From his grandfather, who's a Buddhist abbot at a Shaolin monastery. So somebody must not have been keeping his monk's vows very well.
None of this makes sense. Again.
I feel like we're all like hyped up. I don't know what's
It's
going
because
on.
the soundtrack kicked in.
Mortal Kombat.
But I do like this thing. So they're at this Shaolin monastery. I don't know where they filmed this. They may have filmed it in location. It actually looks pretty good. And they have this horrible filter over everything. But
Weird angles. Especially when Sean or whatever fights Shang Tsung in the beginning.
Is this where he's trying to get permission, or like he wants their support to go be in the Mortal Kombat or something?
correct.
Okay.
And by the way, the guy here that we're talking about is Robin Shou, who's kind of the
Liu.
only... Liu Kang
Yeah.
is played by actor Robin Shou. Thank you. Who is like kind of the only actor to come out of this kind of sort of. He's done stuff for...
He went on to Beverly Hills Ninja.
He went on to Beverly Hills Ninja. He was in Mortal Kombat Annihilation because he's the one person who showed back up. And then since then, he's just fluttered around. I mean, he does a lot of martial arts. He's in a lot of special effects. You know, he's a stuntman, technically. And he was in that terrible Death Race 2000 remake. The one with, what's his name? Anyway.
The British guy?
Jason Statham.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he was in all 4 of those movies. So that's what he's doing with his life.
Does he still have that glorious mullet?
No. That impractical mullet.
Yeah, the one that if anyone had any common sense in a fight, they just grab and throw him around.
You're not supposed to do that, though.
But this is Mortal Kombat.
Mortal Kombat.
Yeah, that's the master telling him to fight dirty, which does happen
Which does happen.
in this movie.
It's a very strange move by Lord Raiden. But yeah, so he shows up at the Shaolin Temple, and the Shaolins are like, dude, you left. You can't come back in this oversized leather coat like you're going to host Saturday Night Live. Like, he shows up in a coat from a Viagra commercial, and he's been gone for years, but he keeps dreaming about his brother being killed. And then the Telegraph portends the future. Is Mortal Kombat a thing that they just all know about? Because it seems like...
Well, they
Yeah,
certainly did not explain it very well to us
the,
viewers, because
the-
I was like, what are all these rules? Like, what are they
You
how
weren't
does-
listening when I was talking about losing 9 of the 10 Mortal
What?
Kombats?
Oh my gosh.
Dude, the second
Come
Raiden shows
on,
up
man.
and all these people are like, holy crap, a god has walked up. First of all, stop. What are you talking about? And second of all, they're like, surely there has to be another one who can fight in his behalf. He's been gone for a long time. And there's all these octogenarians staring back at Christopher Lambert wearing a rice paddy hat. We're just like, there's...
And a long flowing white wig.
Oh, it's the wiggiest wig we've ever wigged. It's incredible.
So he's wigged out?
Moving on.
And Liu Kang's he's not your god of thunder. He's a simple beggar. And his grandfather's like, forgive him, Lord Raiden. He's been in America. Too much television. And then he just proceeds to judo flip Liu Kang into the ground and then do this lightning thing. Like, yes, I really am a god.
Well, I mean, it's also like we can afford this much special effects. So his eyes have electricity.
Little zaps. You get some little zaps here and there.
Some zippity zaps.
A zip, zap, a zip, 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 zap. Don't want to stop. I am stone sober.
I thought you were going to say I'm stoned.
I mean, could you imagine? His shirt might be slightly untucked.
Ooh.
No, what I was going to say is I love this idea that he got kicked out for reasons we don't know. We don't know why he left. But, like, he looked at a chalupa. And he knew he must never return. Like, he can smell the Zaxby sauce on him. And he's like, well... You just can never return. Too much television. But anyway, at this point, we're introduced to Linden Ashby, who plays Johnny Cage, who is on the set where everyone has called him a fake and a loser because they just discovered Catcher in the Rye, I guess.
They don't think he really can do the martial arts that he does. And that is like eating at him. Someone comes up to him and is like, there's this tournament called Mortal Kombat.
I think it's supposed to be his agent.
Yeah, it's his agent who it turns out really isn't. We'll get to that in a minute.
Well, his agent who then turns into Shang Tsung, the guy who we saw crippling that child.
He's trying to bring everybody there.
That's right. And we still don't get why he cares or why he's intervening. We know, theoretically, we know why Raiden is picking his fighters. We don't know why Shang Tsung is getting people.
Yeah, because he wants to save the world. And so the bad guy, we don't know, but he's being tricky.
That's a good point. Has he been reading, the weekly world news and thinks Johnny Cage is a bad fighter?
Why wouldn't he choose bad fighters?
That's kind of what I was getting at. Maybe is the demon sorcerer from another dimension like reading the Inquirer and actually thinking it's real?
Well, we forget the twist.
He's like,
ending.
oh, he's a fake. That would be a good one to bring in.
Can you imagine though, just writing that like we know that what's his name? Who's that asshole who? What's
Kano?
No. The Walker Texas Ranger. Chuck Norris.
Yeah.
We know that Chuck Norris could kind of do karate, but by the end of his life, he wasn't doing anything. Or Steven Seagal is a better example. Seagal could kind of bust a move in the 80s, but now just kind of stands there and has people run at him, and he goes...
Busts a move at the buffet, maybe?
Or in his sex dungeon. He's an enemy of the state, technically, now, because he's wanted for, charges. That's why he hides in Russia. Vladimir Putin.
Do he and Edward Snowden have, drinking matches?
No, him and Gerard Depardieu have the drinking matches because Gerard Depardieu also fled France for tax reasons and is now a Russian expat kind of guy. But yeah, I like this. I like this idea that if he's making modern Mortal Kombat, he just gets crappy old fighters who are out of shape. Who's like Steven Seagal, oh yeah, you're gonna defend her.
He's like, all right, do you consent to the Mortal Kombat? Do you accept my challenge?
Then the world will know I'm a great fighter, right? Sure. Hey, sure.
For a sec, they sound like Keanu Reeves.
No, that's down here, bro.
You sees Goro. Whoa.
You know what? I give it to Keanu because he does his own effect. He does a lot of his own special tricks, right? I think Tom Cruise is kind of an asshole for doing what he does because, say, he gets injured. That stops production. There's a reason you hire stuntmen to do things because you can ruin a movie. You can ruin the lives of 1,000 people who work for you because you have to stop working if your star gets injured. But Keanu goes through the training and actually can do the fighting. They only swap him out when there's danger. He's good at what he does.
I'm trying to imagine Keanu Reeves as Johnny Cage, especially since I've been watching a lot of the cut scenes from the newer Mortal Kombat to get more into the characters. And Johnny Cage is such an asshole.
Stop. You're watching Mortal Kombat movie or the game?
The game cutscenes. The newest games are like movies. Like they have...
No, I know. I've played 11. I've beaten 11.
It's like for research.
So you know just how much of an asshole Johnny Cage as a young man is.
Research to that degree. I'm sorry.
Because in the 11 is a time travel one, right?
11 is a time travel one. Right?
Old Johnny meets young Johnny, beats the hell out of him.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to imagine Keanu Reeves being that much of a prick.
Keanu Reeves, you haven't seen any of the John Wick movies, right? Like
no.
That's who he is.
Yeah.
He's an assassin super spy guy. Like he's awesome.
But is he a prick?
No, man.
In real life?
It's a character.
I mean,
no, Keanu Reeves is supposed to be like one of the...
I know he is
man.
such the nicest person, but is John Wick's character supposed to be mean?
Well, he kills
besides
200 people because they kill his dog.
But they killed his dog.
And he killed 200 people. So, I mean, I don't have an answer for you. I'm just telling you.
Yeah, because young Johnny in 11 is such a dick. But in the movie, he's not. But I'm trying to imagine Keanu Reeves.
He does kick a man in the nuts and then leave an autographed picture on him. That's his friendly move.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, remember the friendlies? Friendships.
The friendships, thank you. Friendships.
We're going back, taking it back to the old school here, like 1997.
We should... I'm not going to step on your 97 here.
I think this movie is a little bit triggering for some guys. I don't know. I want to make you guys watch Teen Witch because I think the way that you seem to sort of feel about this movie is how I feel about Teen Witch.
No,
so that's what
we'll schedule it.
Yeah.
Sorry, Matt, you've lost one of your movies.
Whatever.
You're gonna love Teen Witch.
No, we'll do it.
I'll take one for the team. I'll get up on that cross.
I was joking.
I was continuing the joke.
Okay.
Okay, so
we can let things die, like my soul. So we haven't introduced Sonia yet. We should introduce Sonia here.
Yeah, future Mrs. Pete Sampras.
I think she was at the time. But yeah, so it's Mrs. Pete Sampras plays this actress. And
yeah,
she
Bridgette Wilson. She was in a bunch of things at this point.
Okay.
And she's a international or something or other police officer chasing a gangster named Kano, alongside her partner Jax, who is remarkably ineffective at keeping her from doing stupid things like barging into a club with a shotgun as big as she is, where everyone is high.
We can talk about this for a second because it's the craziest scene in the whole thing. But Jax, who somehow does not appear in this film, he shows up, is an actual character from Mortal Kombat, and then does not end up in Mortal Kombat, and instead we get Art, the other black character who dies immediately, which we'll get to.
Is it the black guy dies first if it's the first named character as opposed to the 20 guys Goro kills? Because there's a montage of people just getting chucked to the ground when Goro's
he's the only
unleashed.
character we care about that we see die, I guess, because Sonya's really busted up about it.
Yeah, and she only has known him for a day. Meanwhile, Johnny Cage actually knows him, and he's not that upset. That was screwy.
I will mention we've talked about her in previous episode, Last Action Hero, where she is the love interest. She came out the same year. She was in Billy Madison. She was the sexy teacher that he was in love with. And she's in future episode, I Know What You Did Last Summer, 2 years later, which, again, stay tuned. Anyway, so she is also now officially the voice of Sonya Blade in the video games. So she was in Mortal Kombat 9, 10, and 11 as Sonya. So I guess, good for her. She gets a paycheck doing this stuff.
And the dude who is Shang Tsung in this one, they have him doing it in Mortal Kombat as well.
Yeah, the games. He comes back for the games, which is good. So she goes into this club. She's chasing Kano, and she's running around the club with a shotgun, and they just keep playing because when Moby's
it's the
dropping,
90s.
Ecstasy, it's a hell of a drug.
I mean,
is that a shotgun? I just want to hug you.
Oh my god. But I was going to say, just like, it's so funny how, I guess maybe now we just live in a different culture, but you can now bring guns to clubs in Georgia. So people are just...
You shouldn't. You probably shouldn't.
You should not, but you can now. It's like that. I saw a guy walk into a Walmart with an assault rifle on his back.
Oh, gosh.
And I was just like, those deals aren't worth it.
Somebody wants attention.
He does. And his penis was ever so small. But, there's a way you can assert yourself without threatening the checkout lady who doesn't want to be there that day either.
It's a self-checkout.
Yeah, that's right.
why won't this thing scan?
It's like the...
I'm buying a 30 rack of Coors because I'm not buying Bud Light anymore. You know why. And now it won't scan, and I have a gun on my back.
There's a country song, Bubba Shot the Jukebox last night. Should we do a new version? Bubba Shot the Self-Checkout.
Self-checkout.
More like Bubba accidentally shot himself when he reached over and split his pants. So around here, everyone's converging on the boat, right?
The sinister dragon boat with the fog.
Yeah, and the boat pulls up, and everybody's like, "What the?"
Well, because it appears out of nowhere. It wasn't there a second, and then the camera cuts the other direction, and then it shows back, and something out of Muppet Treasure Island shows up. It's the cheap. It's an amusement park ride, but the cheap ones.
And it's blowing. It's blowing smoke.
And if we haven't mentioned this, because I don't think we have, this movie is obviously we're having fun because it's kind of a stupid fun movie, but it's Paul W.S. Anderson, and we've done a pile of his movies so far, including Event Horizon, which is an excellent film. And Matt keeps pitching this, and now it's old enough. When we first started it, it wasn't. But he did the Three Musketeers movie with the dirigibles from 2011, which bombed hard. And he's the one who does all those Resident Evil movies. He also did Alien vs. Predator, which we did. So he's the king of, we need just a gun for hire to make a kind of fun movie based on a stupid premise. And he makes his money. He's that kind of gun for hire, and this movie is fun because of it. It's stupid as sin, but you're left I guess that's what a Mortal Kombat movie is.
I was also getting a little bit of a Power Rangers vibe.
Oh, totally.
We're going to gather all of our warriors, and we're,
Zordon has escaped from the tank. Has escaped from the tank and gotten ripped.
But I mean, to your point, it's a movie that's 100 minutes long.
Yeah.
And within 20 minutes, we're already on the boat, and we're about to see people fighting.
Yeah.
And
we already saw people fighting.
Right. And that's when Raiden shows up and goes, all right, I know you didn't read the booklet in the front of the video game, so I'm going to tell you about the video game. And this is where he goes, so there's this emperor, you see. Shang Tsung is his evil sorcerer, and I think he actually says evil. And he goes, so he can come into your realm, the world realm, the Earth realm, if they win 10 tournaments. And they've already won 9 tournaments. So this is a pretty big deal. And in the meanwhile, Shang Tsung is just posing in front of the glowing background.
It has begun. And he started perving on Sonya already,
We can't forget,
I can give you a tour myself.
I really liked the scene when Johnny tries to get Lou to move his bag for him. That, I laughed out loud.
The kind of racist.
Yeah, and that was the first thing in the movie that actually made me be because I will be honest, guys, I was not excited about watching this movie. I was this is gonna suck. But that moment was the moment that I was like, this is fun. It's fun. It's not taking itself too seriously. You'll see. You go watch the movie. You'll see when the bag. It's really good right before they get on the boat. But I really enjoyed it. So anyway, yeah. So he gives the big spiel, which I don't really follow. I'm not good at paying attention to the story building parts when they're naming all these people and emperors' names and titles and whatever. So
no, you're fine. And I've played these games before. And
you didn't know all that stuff?
No way in hell. And like Matt said, number 11, the first player mode, they really wanted to flesh it out so you felt like you were doing something other than just the fighty fight. I'm fine generally with just the fighty fight. Like you pick up the game because you want to just punch each other.
Yeah.
Smash Brothers does not need to have a plot line.
Yeah, I think they really started getting deeper into the developed plot line in 2 and 3.
I believe you, but I'm pretty sure this came from the booklet. This was all written into the manual.
If I had to guess, I think they took bits of 1 and 2 because they go into the Outworld. And Annihilation is 3 because they come to Earth.
Well, right. But what I was going to say is this came out right before the video game for 3 was supposed to come out, kind of like I don't know, not a teaser, but like, because the first two games had been massive. Yeah. And kids, you're gonna, if you've ever played the original Mortal Kombat, you're not going to believe me, but the game was revolutionary because it used stop motion animation. So they actually had the fighters make like real people in the costumes making the poses that were the fighting moves. And then they put that into the game. You were actually like, it was like a form of animation that had never been done in video gaming before. And that's what made the original game such a like weird, unique, kind of strange thing to watch. And so everyone wanted to get it, but Nintendo was known for being a very clean-cut, family-oriented system, so they didn't want the violence. So they
didn't like people's spines being pulled out of their body.
So they disabled the fatalities in the original Nintendo version, and they changed the blood to sweat. So when you punched him, just like little water droplets would come off of people.
Toasty!
That guy's smoke. He turns into smoke in between the games.
The only like game thing I remember was Sonya.
Oh, really?
Like I remember the guy saying the name.
I mean, I have vivid memories of going to like friends' houses for sleepovers and playing this game until like 3 a.m. Like, and you had that one kid who knew how to do the fatalities, and then they would try to do the fatalities really quick. Oh yeah.
Fatality.
We get to the island. And like you said, Mortal Kombat has begun. It has begun.
And then there's that weird cryptic thing, though, that the, I guess, organizer, whatever bad guy name,
Shang Tsung
tells Katana to leave the human, or he tells a lizard statue to
Gex, if Gex was on PCP, also known as Reptile.
He tells that to watch Katana, Princess Katana, and to leave the humans alone because for some reason he doesn't want her getting mixed up with those
It's
humans.
not one big happy family in hell.
Yeah.
For those of you who are, younger than us, Gex is a video game.
Well, you were playing Mortal Kombat at sleepovers. I was playing Gex and like Spyro.
Yeah,
so.
Gex is like a 95-ish, I think, and it was he was a spy, right?
In some of the later versions, he was a spy.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole premise of the game, though, it was all like what movie studio was it? It was like James Bond. He did Looney Tunes.
In the first game, he's going through these different television genres.
Yeah.
And I could never figure out how to get through the first world, which was monster movies. But in one of the later Gex games, he's like James Bond.
Yeah, it's all different. It's like movie. It's really fun.
Only he's a anthropomorphic lizard that hits things with his tail.
Yeah.
And Reptile...
And he says funny quips the whole time.
And Reptile in Mortal Kombat is what happens if you crossed Gex with Gollum.
Oh, yes.
And fed him a lot of PCP.
Matt listened to a podcast. Matt did a little learning today, and he's been sharing little PCP facts. I was going to say it looks like crap, considering that Super Mario Brothers had come out 2 years before, and they already had Yoshi, and Yoshi looks kind of like a Velociraptor from Jurassic Park, rather, and that was already 2 years old.
That was in Yoshi in the Super Mario Brothers movie? Was he a puppet or CGI?
CGI.
Huh.
And this thing is mostly computer graphics. And
Yeah.
It mostly looks like garbage.
It's very
sometimes
bad.
I'm pretty sure it's a cardboard cutout, like when he's a statue at the beginning, where it's just kind of sitting there, and you're just like, yeah, no, that's not good. Not good at all. But yeah, so we're introduced here to a few of the Outworlders, I guess you'd call them. Sub-Zero and Scorpion.
Yeah, they were on the boat. Scorpion and Sub-Zero, deadliest of enemies, but slaves to my power. And then Raiden just jacks both of them. And we meet Sub-Zero again in this part.
Yeah, and it's worth mentioning here that if you've seen that new movie, they get way into the Sub-Zero and Scorpion thing, and other than that first 30 minutes, the rest of the movie is pretty crazy.
Yeah, Sub-Zero in the new one is like a god, and this one is just blue ninja who freezes people.
It's kind of what he is in the game.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the new Mortal Kombat, they play with the ice magic to a much greater degree, and like, oh shit.
Did you like that movie?
Yes.
The one that came out like
during COVID, like
Yeah.
2021.
2 years. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because HBO thinks I want to watch that now. It's
Do
like,
it.
oh, you're
Do
you're
it.
the word for a Mortal Kombat fan?
You're combative.
Homicidal maniac.
You're a combative.
At least that was the fear of what we would become if we played this game.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you guys turned out okay.
Nah, this was one of those games that they blamed Columbine on too. Like it just.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I mean the first 30 minutes was fine. I got really bored with the movie. It took me like 3 days to finish it. Though we will never see it again. They were convinced they were setting up a whole franchise, but it lost so much money. I don't think it's coming back.
I
The
thought it
new
was.
one.
I thought it was.
No, there's a TV show coming out, I think.
They did have TV shows at different times. Like there was a whole Mortal Kombat universe. But
I feel like I don't like all the fighting. I mean, for me, I'm just like, it was just like too much fighting. And that was my thought, is I was like, there's just too much fighting. But then like, what would the movie be without all the fighting?
No, I mean, you got me. I don't know what to tell you.
Do you guys know like what Foley is?
Yeah.
Like
The sound effects?
Yeah, making the sound effects. I feel like they probably had a really big budget for that in this movie. There was just like a lot of crunching and
how many pieces of asparagus can we snap?
squelching.
Well, I mean, and it's very, like you said earlier, it's almost cartoonish. Like it really does sound like we're watching a vaudeville in the 1930s. Like, oh goodness gracious, Johnny Cage hit him in the face. And it's just like slapping a piece of ham. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
So apparently, it looks like they are still talking about it, but they were expected to start filming last year, but as of this year, they are still only talking about who might appear in the sequels. So,
It could happen.
Yeah, and again, I don't know. It came out during COVID. It's kind of weird. Like it's kind of in that weird interspace because you can kind of say whatever you want. It apparently only made $10 million in theaters. So,
anyway,
It walked so King Kong could run. The new King Kong came out soon afterward, and actually made enough money. They keep making those.
I didn't see that.
I don't know what to tell you. I'm speechless.
I can tell.
Is that the one with John Goodman in Vietnam?
No, that was earlier. This is King Kong versus Godzilla.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
With
That's
a
fine.
Mecha Godzilla that's really the reincarnation of King Ghidorah. Oh no, I've gone cross-eyed.
You stepped on yourself so quickly I can't even respond anymore. It's like the podcast is folded into itself.
Quinception.
You just having a podcast
That's a
where
thing.
you
I
argue
like
with
it.
yourself. It's like it's really something. Start talking. He wouldn't find that funny. We should skip ahead. Okay, so we're introduced to Princess Katana around here too. She's 10,000 years old, but she's giving Liu
She's
Kang-
hot.
Yeah, she's hot.
She's aged very well.
Yeah.
At one point, Johnny Cage is like, "No, she's 10,000 years old." What, Johnny? You're afraid that Lou has become her cougar cub? Yeah, but Princess Katana has a very different agenda than Shang Tsung, which, as I said earlier, it's not a very happy family in hell.
Okay. Yeah. And I've completely lost my mind.
I think we're talking about Sub-Zero.
Well, so they just met Katana. So I think that's when the battle starts, right? Don't they start fighting?
Well, we have your standard. I mean, and this is really where you see it's Bloodsport because they have the big feast where everyone's together, which is literally seen at a Bloodsport. And then we have the bodyguards that are all wearing the red balaclavas come in.
Oh, and then the big guy gets introduced to, and he's
Prince
like,
Goro.
"I'm the whatever of the whatever-y place," and
He's trying to explain the whole thing.
All of these words don't matter due to the
but
fighting.
I
He's
feel
trying to-
like they do.
He's trying to explain this whole thing to Kano, who's an Earth criminal who's basically there to lure Sonya into
He's the
Outworld.
one eating the giant turkey legs, right?
It's correct.
And he's trying to bond with Goro. He's like, "Well, I'm kind of an underworld guy back home. How lucky for them back home." Cut to Kano shitting himself. Because they mentioned Goro is a 10-foot tall four-armed dragon.
You did not know.
Because he is.
Yeah, Kano is. Excuse me. Kano, if you don't know, he looks like the Phantom of the Opera.
Is he
but janky.
claymation? I think he's claymation. I don't know.
No, that's Goro. Kano.
Oh, okay.
I'm just mentioning. We haven't talked about Kano yet.
Oh,
but he's vaguely Australian, and so now the character's Australian in the games, which he wasn't before. But he has this mask, so he looks vaguely like the Phantom of the Opera, but shittier, because it's like the cheapest plastic metal mask. Which is where my question is this supposed to be Earth? Because if he's just a dude on Earth with a metal face, that's kind of strange. Also, you think it'd be easier to figure out, hey, that dude has a metal face, he must be Kano. And you'd think she wouldn't have such a hard time finding him unless she's truly terrible at being a cop, which we kind of find out later she kind of is, because she olive oils throughout the entire rest of this movie. She goes from kicking ass for the first 20 minutes, and then for the next hour, she does nothing but get kidnapped.
She got captured.
Yeah.
Her hair got messed up. She looked really cute, though.
She did. That's why Billy Madison fell in love with her.
But she did get to snap Kano's neck with her thighs.
Not even.
That's... Yeah.
Thick thighs take lives.
That was also a good line, too, because what did he say? He
Honey,
said,
give me a break.
And she said, okay.
It is. Yes, but we should talk about Prince Goro, who is sometimes a dude in a suit, and those two arms are just kind of dangling there, and sometimes he's a puppet. And you can very clearly tell when he's what.
Yeah.
Because sometimes he just turns into a clay figurine.
Yeah, it's really weird. Like, I think he's claymation, CG, a man in a suit, and a cartoon at all different times. I think he is all of those things.
To various successes. And they string those scenes together not very flawlessly.
It's seamless. It really is.
But, like, they set him up for so long. Like, he's a shadow flexing at times. And he just... Oof. And you know what? They put him on screen a lot, and that money is there. But, yeah.
Yeah, because Shang Tsung kind of keeps him in reserve for most of the movie while the other characters fight.
Yeah, and because it doesn't make sense and doesn't matter, we don't have any process. There's no rankings. There's no bracket. Because, like, in Bloodsport, there's very much a bracket. Like, you fight him, and there's, like, they're moving up the thing. Same with, Karate Kid or any of that stuff. Here, it just seems like randomly Shang Tsung's
just
like,
picks
you fight
people.
him.
You fight this guy.
Yeah, because Johnny...
He's like, hey, here's somebody who made you mad in 4th grade.
That's right. And, like, we just see, like, eventually it's just a montage of people flopping around, like, getting thrown by Prince Goro.
Yeah, that's the murder, the Goro murder montage.
Yeah.
Like, several continuous minutes of people being thrown on the ground.
Well, you say murder, and you're right. At one point, there's this one dude, we see Shang Tsung eat a soul. But this movie's PG-13 because there's no blood. Like, you can she does break Kano's neck, but it's off screen because it's PG-13. There's actually not a lot of violence you see.
Well, there's a lot of fighting.
There's
like,
flips and stuff. You see an occasional punch.
People
like
being...
Art's like boxing, and goes like ha, 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 and then like breaks the man in half. But it's all like off screen, and they just go, "No, Art!"
Yeah, Sonya is much more upset than Johnny is, which makes no sense because she doesn't even know him.
You said that before, but they had one
but it
magical
is so
evening.
stupid.
Yeah, you don't know that.
They had one magical evening. He showed up at her hotel room. They looked longingly at each other.
Her hotel room or her cabin on the boat?
Oh, maybe they were just playing coy earlier.
No wonder
I'm going to fall in love with a tennis pro next.
No wonder Jax didn't want her getting on that boat. Territory issues. He knew Art would be horning in.
Oh, God, help me. I just love that like, because they all have such stupid, over-the-top names. I mean, Liu Kang is fine, but you have Kang, you have Johnny Cage, you have Sonya, and you have Art. Like, it's just incredibly dumb. Anyway, so we have random fisticuffs in the what I'll call the candle room. And at this point, this is when Raiden shows up, and Raiden's giving him some advice. Like, okay, so this is how you're supposed to fight. This is what's going on here. This is Mortal Kombat, and if you can find your inner strength, You can win this thing.
The inner strength is kick somebody in the balls.
Johnny Cage, in fact, at one point does a split and punches someone in the balls, which is really a power move. You can feel them balls on your knuckles. You're doing something right.
And Radar's like, yeah.
But I also just want to say, like, do you think Art could have used some of that advice too? Because it's really just our main characters. All the other people from Earth are like, well, I've seen the future, and one of you three is going to win the tournament of Mortal Kombat. I just can't see which one it is. You know, because I'm kind of a crappy god. And Art's like, hey, you guys getting any advice? I'm like, no, you stay over there, Art. Enjoy some more of those tapas.
No, I think he...
Save me a turkey leg, please.
It seems like he doesn't remember the advice until something happens, and then he's like, oh, so Art being killed, he was like, oh, yeah, that's what I was...
Son of a bitch. I knew I was forgetting something.
I think it was Art's death that triggers Johnny into doing the right thing for the right reason. That, you know, Raiden's whole spiel was, you want to prove yourself so desperately, you will fail. And Johnny decides to fight Goro not to show off, but because he wants to stop Goro from killing other people, especially Sonya. Hence
Makes sense.
No
That's
showboating,
really deep,
I'm just going for the balls.
Well, first, I also think it's, yes, he's trying to save Sonya. Liu Kang is trying to save Princess Katana. Because we keep seeing her out of the corner of his eye wearing her purple, and it's just kind of like, oh.
Mm-hmm.
Although Katana, like, arm bars him like 50 times in 5 minutes at one point.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, we'll get there. But,
yeah.
So we have the first actual death we see in fighting is Liu Kang fighting this guy. I mean, I think he's actually Jamaican, but
Who roars like a lion.
he does. He roars like a lion. They're doing their kung fu poses at each other. They have bows, but they don't really use them. They come out with weapons and they leave them in the sand. But when he gets defeated, this is where we see Shang Tsung take a soul.
So that's why we know that the stakes are high, because once he gets... He's not dead, though, right? He's just on the ground, right? He's not dead.
Oh, no, he's still twitching.
But
he's
then
he gets his soul.
and then the bad guy comes over and takes his soul, and you're like, oh, okay. And then he turns kind of blue.
Your soul is mine.
Fatality. And that's what he says, fatality.
So I'm glad that they said that, and I'm really glad that he said finish him at one point too. So.
Well, at one point he says flawless victory as
Yeah.
well. He got them all in, which is good. But yeah, so and then the guy gets a little paler, so we know he doesn't have a soul. It's key. It's film.
Yep.
It's film language.
They showed it. They didn't say it.
That's right.
So.
You show, you don't tell. That's important.
Since that guy doesn't have a name, just call him Little Lion Man.
Like the song
Song?
by Mumford and Son. But yeah. So at this point we have Kano and Sonya. I mean, now it's just kind of there's Mortal Kombat. There's combat happening with mortals.
Yeah, the bad guy's just saying, you fight this person, you fight, and then people are fighting. Lots of fighting.
And for some reason, Shang Tsung tells Kano to like hurt her but not kill her, though we don't really know why yet.
Well, he can't get into her pants if she's dead.
Well.
He's been perving on her from 20 minutes in.
You do keep saying that, but there's an actual plot reason, which is incredibly stupid, which comes up at the end. Though Kano is trying to kill her regardless, and then she does break his neck with her thighs, which I believe is a move from the game. There's a lot of moves from the games here, which is cool. The next one we should mention, which is amazing and terrible and CGI-tastic, is Scorpion versus Johnny Cage.
Because in the forest.
He's not just shooting a spear out of his hand. It's a CGI snake monster.
Yeah, it's like a snake chain. It's like a snake rope.
It's a snake rope, and it's terrible, and it's and it kind of hisses.
And it's kind of like, I think that they're trying to go for the sort of classic kung fu scene in a forest, you know, that sort of fight scene, traditional fight scene.
Right.
Supposedly, there is a car, like a white truck, that is in the background in one of those shots in that forest scene.
Is it a white Bronco? OJ trying to escape through the movie.
I don't know. Is that what is that?
He's just talking for himself now.
I'm making joke-em-ups.
Who?
He's referencing when O.J. Simpson went on a drive down a highway 2 years before. Yeah, so they did actually film all of this in Thailand.
Yeah, so there's a car in
one of the shots
the
because
scenes.
they just did not go back and do reshoots.
They were like, oh, it's fine. Nobody will notice.
No one's going to see this movie. This is New Line Cinema, 1990. No one's going to see this. But yeah, so Johnny goes in for a flying kick and gets sucked through a teleporter, and they end up in like hell.
You know, it kind of looked like he kicked the guy, and for a minute, because it was like all red, this is really stupid. I'm a little sad that I'm actually saying this, but I thought he may have gone into the guy. Like, it was like right as he made contact.
Sure.
I thought that he was like in the guy.
And then we have a scene in his Sherlock Holmes mind palace.
Then I quickly realized that was not what happened, but...
Well, it's an excuse for them to have another thing that looks like a different fighting level.
They went to a different...
Welcome.
And they keep getting told new rules. Like
anyone's paying attention to this. Like, we're just here for the fight 'em ups. But Johnny Cage keeps doing flippy doos, ends up on top of the scaffolding, which Scorpion pulls down on top of him. He then rips off his mask to show a skull face.
Not a very convincing one.
No, it is not. It looks like a Spirit Halloween costume. Like, it's really just, and then his eyes glow. There's a fireball thing and to a convenient shield. Johnny holds it up, which then catches on fire, and Johnny then spears.
I guess this counts as no blood because he carves him up with that shield, and what looks like flaming jello is pouring out.
Well, and if it's not a person, you can kill it gruesomely. MPAA doesn't care if it's not a human. So like lava falls out of him and he bleeds, but he's just a skeleton, and then his head explodes, which is pretty cool. Then his whole body explodes, and then we cut to
Is he the one that turns into bugs? Somebody turns into bugs.
No, it's not him. Then.
Okay.
Because he just explodes, and this is where Johnny leaves the signed picture of himself on the on the teeth, on the flaming teeth.
Okay, yeah, no. I think it's closer to the end where whoever gets killed and they
when
turn
Reptile
into, like,
gets sucked into the statue.
Yeah, like
yes.
buggies.
Yeah, and he turns into the Oogie Boogie Man from Nightmare Before Christmas. Yeah.
Previous episode.
No one should still be available, I think. It's not behind the paywall. Anyway, at this point, Liu Kang fights Princess Katana.
It's really hot.
It's really hot. So hot. And she's like giving him advice the whole time as to how to beat her.
But she won't like tell him in real words. She tells him in like
weird
advice mumbo jumbo. Like
she's setting him up to beat Sub-Zero because she won't kill him and he won't kill her, and Shang Tsung can't do shit about it because she's a princess of Outworld and she's the theoretically adopted daughter of his boss.
So she's like, use the power that gives life.
Which means nothing.
And he's like, what?
Yeah, she's the non-union Mexican
like,
equivalent.
Remember my words.
He's like, I haven't read the script. I can't tell you.
Wait, was this in the book? In the little book in the
I
case?
knew I should have thrown it out. I knew I should have kept the thing. Because, like, they're also fighting really slow. Like,
it's a hot fight.
It's a pretty hot fight.
I don't know.
They're two good-looking dudes. Or people. Him and Goro. Just... but no, yeah, no, they're they're fine fucking. But yeah, then Katana's like refuses to fight him, yada yada yada. But the end of this is we don't have to go through every single fight because they just
it's all
they're all the same. I mean, the plot kind of slowly advances here. Is there anything you want to talk about specifically? Because otherwise, like Liu Kang fights Sub-Zero.
Okay, so we already talked about when fake Johnny nuts the monster, right?
Yeah, I mean, okay, so the two fights that are happening at this point simultaneously are Liu Kang and Sub-Zero and Goro and Johnny
So
Cage.
there was one more little tidbit, when after, so like he nuts him, runs away. That's what it's called when you punch somebody in the nuts, right?
Sure.
I don't know. I didn't do a lot of that. It was, preteen or whatever. So then he chases the monster away to find him again, and the monster crushes his sunglasses, and he tells the monster that those were $500 sunglasses.
Asshole.
So I looked up like how much that would have like been equivalent to in 95, which again, I don't know if we ever established if this is like if it is 1995 in that world, but I'm assuming it was like $1,000 sunglasses.
So this is like Tom Cruise, approaching Tom Cruise.
I'm pretty sure they were like Ray-Bans or something.
Oh, no. If this was 1993, they were probably fancy Oakleys, because that's what the 90s were.
Yeah, so I just thought that was interesting because I was like, oh, $500 in 95 must have been really expensive. So I was just curious. It was $1,015.
There you go. It's good work.
I would be mad too.
I would be too, yeah. The Sub-Zero fight is nothing. It's kind of fun. Liu Kang runs around and throws a bucket of water on him right as he's trying to charge up, and it turns into an icicle that, takes him down like that kid from A Christmas Story. But we're kind of rapidly approaching the end. This is where he goes, we've let those humans win long enough. And so this is where we get the Goro montage as well. And again, this is just me contextualizing him. I know we were talking about Johnny Cage punching him and
nutting him. He nuts him. You can say it. That's.
We watch Goro nut everywhere.
No, that was.
And Johnny
that
Cage
was a
like,
different movie.
That really hurt. The website I'm not allowed to talk about anymore, I think, has the phrase "balls of steel."
I mean, he's a tough-looking monster. Well, I want to know why the bad guy called him an idiot after that. Like the big boss bad guy, he says idiot. Like
you let yourself get punched.
Yeah, wait, why does that make him an idiot? That wasn't his fault.
Well, he's dead now. That was dumb.
Well, that made it, But just getting punched in the balls doesn't make someone an idiot.
I think Goro was just sort of posturing I'm taking your sunglasses,
Yeah.
and Johnny Cage just totally does something totally unexpected.
I feel like if I had
Plus Shang Tsung
4 hands, I'm
3 nuts.
Plus Shang Tsung's a dickhead anyway.
I mean, he wants it bad. He's won 9 in a row, and if he
wants to. What does he get if he wins?
He gets to come to Earth. He's always wanted to visit Disney.
Just let the man.
The lines these days are so long, he's going to have to steal a lot of souls to cut in line.
I hear that if you go to Chicago, they have a hot dog with ketchup and peppers on it. Anyway. So Pete Sampras' wife is kind of a jerk, and this is when she gets kidnapped.
Because he tried to pull some rules lawyer crap on Johnny Cage, let him fight Goro early. Well, I can challenge anyone I want.
That's right. But I mean...
And then Zordon remembers when that happens, he's like, oh yeah, also there's one more thing I forgot to tell you guys.
If you die in the game, you die for real.
And then I think that's when he tells them, actually he doesn't tell them because the guy is like, oh, you have to accept the fight. And he's like, I have nothing left to teach you.
All right, I'm going to craft services. I'm not allowed in Mortal Kombat for some reason. I think I'd be a very good fighter, though. It's too close to a playground. But yeah, so... he goes, you're lacking in will, then I'm going to fight him anyway. I have nothing else to teach you.
Okay, you've been really helpful.
You've been really helpful. You could have helped Art a little bit. He's dead. I was just... whatever. It's... Johnny Cage just has different outfits in every scene, too, because he brought all that luggage, which is great.
I didn't know. He lost his luggage.
Well, he lost some luggage, but he still had more.
Did he have more?
He was climbing up the mountainside?
No, I did not remember that.
We should also mention around here somewhere, is where Liu Kang fights Reptile?
Because they follow Shang Tsung, who's kidnapped Sonya, to Outworld.
They go into more scary place to rescue the girl.
And Katana is now their advisor, spirit guide, because Raiden can't go there.
He can't go to Outworld because there's too many playgrounds. And and so we get old school Reptile who looks like the same as Sub-Zero and Scorpion, but he wears green.
Because the spastic, crazy Gex Reptile gets eaten alive by a statue and turns into a ninja.
Right. Which is what he looks like in the first game.
Yeah,
right?
that's the game guy.
Yes,
And Linden Ashby was not on set that day, so that's why he doesn't help Liu Kang fight Reptile.
I believe it. It's Paul W.S. Anderson. You get what you can. You take what you can get.
And he's the one that turned into buggies.
Correct.
When he got killed.
dies, like the statue crumbles, he turns into bugs, and yada yada yada. I mean, and again, this part works because Robin Shou is an actual martial artist, and when there's someone in a mask like this, you can hire whoever you want. So it's clearly just a stuntman martial artist guy, and these fights are good. See, that's all I got here. But we're rapidly approaching the end.
And then you go.
No, please.
Well, so then they're like trying to find out how they can save the girl, and then they cut to the girl, and she's like, "I'm never gonna, whatever. My friends are gonna come for me." And then that's when he rips off his mask and he says, "We already did."
They snuck into the bunch of monks.
They did. They dressed up as monks from Outworld. So what it turns out is Shang Tsung has this loophole where he can fight whomever he wants for the final match. And if he beats them, right, he wins no matter what. So his presumption was, she is such a terrible fighter that if I force her here and kidnap her, I can just choose to fight her as the last one and win Mortal Kombat.
But she hasn't accepted.
She did not accept. That's the whole thing.
So I'm going to mess up your hair and put you in a leather dress.
Dude, this is where it comes like, well, you mentioned King Kong. It's like Fay Ray from King Kong. Where
It's tied up.
Tied up. She's like, oh, help! Oh, help!
Clothes are all ripped. Why are her clothes all ripped up? Like,
someone watched Star Trek right before this. Like, because like her hair's all frayed. Like,
yeah.
Also, let's be clear. Her clothes aren't just ripped up. She's been changed into another outfit, which Shang Tsung did with love.
In Mortal Kombat 11, he's like, "I have the dress for you."
It's funny because
20 years later, he's still not letting that go.
Well, I mean, if you had such a successful movie, you'd want to tie it into your game. Well, like you said, it's more than 20 years later. Yeah, it's like 25 years later. Woo, boy.
So he tries to challenge Johnny Cage, but Liu Kang's like, "No, I'm fighting you, bitch."
And this fight scene at the end always bothers me. And I watch this movie every year or so. It's fun. It's stupid. It's one you put on when people are around because they'll have fun watching it. But so they have this fight. It's well established. You kind of pan around. You have the giant Mortal Kombat logo on the floor. It looks like the final fight from the game. Liu Kang's doing pretty good. He's throwing some punch-em-ups. And then Shang Tsung turns into his brother. And he's like, "Hey, why are you fighting me? Why weren't you there when I died?" And I'm sorry, man. They're about as far apart as I am from you. And you watch the old man turn into your brother.
Into him.
And he's like, "Brother?"
It can't be.
and it works long enough for Shang Tsung to get one punch in. And then he's like, "Oh no, the whole
Okay, but I think, didn't he kill his brother?
He did.
So he has his brother's soul. So it could actually be that he thinks that he's really like choosing to show his brother to him. Not that he's just taking his form, but that he's like, "Hey, I got your brother," you know?
I mean, it's possible, I guess, but we have
Because I had that same thought where he's like, I'm like, it's obviously the bad guy. Like, punch him.
Well, and we've seen him change into other people. That's why I assume,
yeah.
like, because he turned into Linden Ashby's agent or whatever.
Yeah.
And this is where he also gets all the dead people to come out of the ground, like the samurai.
Oh, the 1,000 greatest warriors or something.
Yeah, all those souls he's been collecting.
Yeah.
Well, and presumably these are the guys who've lost the previous
we're seeing. Yeah, it is. Some of them at least are people who died in the movie.
Yeah, one of them's Art.
Why did you let him kill me?
Yeah, and then we have a samurai who I kind of love, who just goes at it with like a sword. We're just like, alrighty. And then and again, it's cool. I'm a sucker for this stuff because he's just like, because then there's a guy with just a metal hook, and he's just like, okay, I'm punching the guy with the hook. And then we have a guy who literally looks like the old Mandarin from like the old Iron Man cartoon, like with a huge Fu Manchu mustache and like a billowing robe, and he goes, ah! And Liu Kang just punches him in the face. Like the greatest fighters from the previous, we don't even know how long it's been. Right? It's been millennia, who knows? And Liu Kang just punches him in the face. Oh my god, a punch. I've never seen that before. A left jab.
I didn't know.
But the reason Shang Tsung wanted one punch on Liu is the spikes are coming out of the floor. He just wanted to trick how long enough to give him a good shove.
It's true.
Right. Which again, that's also from the game, right? Because on certain levels you could just do the uppercut and the guy would land on the spikes for the fatality. So Paul W.S. Anderson had some surge, and he played the game. He wanted this to do this. I forgive you for letting me die. Pow!
And all the thousands of souls that Shang Tsung had taken are free now, including Chan.
Yeah.
And he comes out, and they hold hands for a minute. It's really sweet.
Cut back to Earth.
This is really good.
Yeah.
How they got out of hell is beyond me.
So they're all celebrating. It's a party, right? For like 10 seconds.
Uh-huh. And then the sky, then the camera shifts dramatically to a Dutch angle. And the sky turns like purple.
It was giving me vibes of Halloween Town. And I think actually maybe Halloween Town 2. Where the bad guy he's an evil sorcerer, and there's this big scene where he's like floating in the sky in purple. Anyway, but it's just funny because he's like, "You guys did a good job."
Well, I mean, we should mention they come back to out of Outworld into Earth, and there are all these kids with flags with Lord Raiden, and Lord Raiden must have been like, "All right, if there's giant skulls flying through the air, that means we've lost Mortal Kombat. But if there are no skulls, show up with the flags because we won Mortal Kombat and we have saved the world." And so these kids are like, "Wee!" And Raiden's like, "Oh, good, it's the one with the flags." And then the sky turns purple, and we get another skull face in the clouds. Because when Shang Tsung first shows up, he goes, "Oh!" And there's like a skull eagle thing. And so we have another skull thing. And then Raiden this time is like, "Well, I guess I have to fight in the sequel." And he doesn't fight in the sequel because he's replaced with James Remar.
Because the thing that defeating him in Mortal Kombat should have prevented from happening is happening.
Because the actual Emperor showed up.
Yeah, but
and he's like, "I have come for your souls," and they all do the karate pose, and then music starts playing.
And
Whew.
How long has it been?
27 years.
I mean, how long have we been talking?
Oh.
Is it longer than the movie?
Watch the whole movie.
We are not longer than the movie yet. We're at 70 minutes.
Oh.
But I do love a sequel setup that's so on the nose. Like, guess what? We'll be fighting together again soon. So if you don't know this, we've talked about it on the previous episodes, but Christopher Lambert is incredibly myopic. And so the reason he doesn't do a lot of fighting in this is because like on Highlander, he would actually just hit the stuntman because he couldn't tell distances because he's blind as a bat. And so, like, on this, he's like, "I will tell you about Mortal Kombat, but I'm not going to move because I'll hurt you." And so he does the pose with the other people, and it just cuts to credits. It's great. It's a perfect, like, you're not going to believe this. Dun, 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 dun. This might still be the best video game movie. That Super Mario Brothers movie is pretty good, but I think this is more fun.
Ooh.
Sonic the Hedgehog 1 and 2. There's a Doom movie. There's those Resident Evil movies. This is better than all of those. The original Super Mario Brothers movie.
Silent Hill.
But Silent Hill, that's okay.
Resident Evil, I heard, was terrible.
There's a lot of them.
I saw the first one. That's all I got through. That Doom
Oh,
game.
so I got mixed up. Alone in the Dark is terrible. The first Resident Evil is mediocre.
I have not seen Alone in the Dark. That I couldn't help you with. But yeah, I don't know. This movie's kind of fun. The Street Fighter movie's kind of a hate watch, but it's okay. This is a fun movie. Anyway, final thoughts, Matt.
I thought it was fun. It's not that long and it's entertaining, so just check it out.
How many times have you watched it now?
This is probably the third time or fourth, because first time when it came out, I might have seen it at some point later, watch it for the original podcast.
9 years ago?
And now this.
Yeah, 8 years ago, 9 years ago.
You still like it?
Yeah.
I mean, that's saying something.
You?
I enjoyed it way more than I thought I would.
Yeah.
I did not think I would. It was really fun. If you like cheese, you were going to like this movie.
I do like cheese. Well, I mean, I clearly enjoyed it. So I don't know if I ever said this on the first episode, but I think I'd seen it once before we did it for the podcast. But like after we rewatched it for the podcast, I rewatched this a lot because it's just fun and stupid. It's just stupid. We did Mortal Kombat Annihilation with Chris Staff 1,000 years ago. It's not a good movie, and it somehow there's something about this that makes it charming.
Yeah, it's cute. It's
This is a fun, silly movie. Mortal Kombat Annihilation was a terrible, silly movie.
Well, and like the people who are acting are not. Most of them aren't great actors. I think Christopher Lambert is a fine actor, but like they're all competent enough to keep the scenes moving. Especially the guy who plays Shang Tsung. He's eating so much scenery. Like Robin Shou, he's fine.
Yeah.
Linden Ashby. I mean, say what you will about Paul W.S. Anderson. He gets his money's worth. It's a cheap movie, and he cuts corners where he needs to, but it comes together and it's a movie. That other one is just not a movie. And that 2021 one sounds like they're going to try to make a sequel. Its budget was $55 million, something like 6 times what this one's budget was. But it only made back 84. So I don't know. We'll see.
Hopefully they're not going to do an underfunded, nasty sequel like Mortal Kombat Annihilation was.
We'll see. I just don't know. I don't know. Anyway, I should have pulled this up already. So we appreciate you checking back in with us as we revisit some of our oldest episodes and we attempt to, learn from our mistakes. But next week we start Daniel's month. I'm calling it our Dantastic month. I don't know if he approved of that, but whatever. Our first movie that Dan has chosen, and this is our 10th season. We're doing all sorts of crazy stuff. So after doing a month of revisiting, which is something we never do, we're letting Dan choose a month of whatever he wants. Matt's and I also have months coming up later. But Dan's first episode is Reanimator, the Stuart Gordon classic. So thank you for doing all you do. Thank you for listening. Thank you for sharing. And thanks for reviewing. And however you get this, please give us a rating or review. Thanks, everyone.
Finish him.
Finish him.
Myopia Movies is a podcast production of Dude Letter Podcasting and is produced by Nick Hoffman. It is edited by Nerd Trinette and Daniel Sudis and is hosted by Nick Hoffman, with production assistance by Matthew Quinn, Daniel Sudis, and Nerd Trinette. The theme song is Surf Shimmy by Kevin MacLeod from Incomptech.com. Licensed under the Creative Commons by Attribution 4 license, Creative Commons /licenses by /4.0. Thanks.